Welcome everybody. Here we are, Sunday night for our regular little talk about the weird. And this week I feel like it might be us. We are Global Strangeness, three strangers brought together with the love of everything paranormal and spooky and unusual happening in the world. Myself, Deborah, Scott, and Jeremy.
And that's us every week. We're the strange every week.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's becoming clearer and clearer. But anywho, this week we get to talk about alien abductions. It was my pick. I think it's such a fun one.
Oh shit! That means it's my pick next week. I gotta think of something. But
yeah.
Deborah. Actually, okay. Now I know what we're doing already. But Deborah, don't lie. You said we're talking about probing. You didn't say alien abductions.
You guys said that. If that happens in some of the stories, I don't know.
It happens in the most famous one ever.
So anyways, first of all, for anyone who's unfamiliar with what an alien abduction is, got a few names: alien abduction, abduction phenomenon, alien abduction syndrome, or UFO abduction. It refers to phenomenon of people reporting the experience of being kidnapped by an unusual figure and subjected to physical and psychological experimentation. Does that involve probing? I don't know. Sometimes.
Most of the time.
So people claiming to have been abducted are usually called abductees or, experiencers.
Or nut jobs.
So scientists and mental health professionals explain these experiences by factors such as suggestibility, false memory syndrome, sleep paralysis. That's been a real, deception, pathology. Could it be roofied at the bar the night before? Who knows? Anyways, typical claims involve forced medical examinations that emphasize the subject's reproductive systems. Abductees sometimes claim to have been warned against environmental abuses and the dangers of nuclear weapons. That's a common theme. Or to have engaged in interspecies breeding. I stick with the bar theme.
Did you guys find that most of the cases, like, they have to go to a fucking hypnotist to actually even be able to, like, have a story to claim they were abducted?
Oh, I didn't know that. I know in one case the police, well, you'll see in the little clip, like the police left the two guys together, being recorded in an interview room to see what they would say on their own, and they were like scared still. Like they believed they were telling the truth. They were, didn't change their story, and they were still just as freaked out when there was no one to perform for. So
okay,
yeah.
No, I kind of noticed it looking through all of them. Like that was like a reoccurring thing on my end.
Yeah, and then it just says the contents of abduction narratives seem to vary with the home culture of the alleged abductee, and sometimes there's mind control plots and radical political things and I think that's more when you get the kind of kooks, they come up. I shouldn't say kooks, but like those kind of stories that you're like, is there a different thing behind this driving the story? So
wait till you hear my one story and you hear what this guy did after he claimed he was abducted years later. So yeah.
So anyways, I thought I have one kind of famous story, but before that, I thought it was really interesting. In the small New England town, there's a support group, and they gather for secret meetings. And it's, what is it called? Starship or something? And anyways, it's like AA for who've been abducted to come and tell their stories and feel safe in a safe spot. So anyways, there's these twin sisters that are part in this group that told their story, and they've asked that their last name and hometown is withheld, so it's hard to kind of confirm this, but according to this article, they say that not only do aliens exist, they've made contact with them, and it started when they were really young, so probably around 5 years old or so. A bright blue light would come to the room and the door would open and there'd be like foggy, kind of misty blue light just shining through the whole house, Audrey said, one of the sisters, and these two figures would come in and there'd be a tall one and they had black capes, but they were bald and they had big eyes. And then Audrey and her sister called their, visitors the bald men, but they're better known in UFO circles as the Greys. I'm sure you guys saw lots about that. Everybody knows that's a common, race of extraterrestrials. So the twins' first encounter with aliens came during childhood and continued into adulthood. So I don't know, did you guys find this too? If they abduct you or make contact when you're young, they come and revisit. It seems like the same people.
One of my stories, yeah.
I don't know if it's in my stories, well, actually, I think it is, but actually, I know it's in one. But I mean, it's a very common thing that if it happens when you're young, then it's going to happen most of your life. I mean,
and so, do you think is that because they come and they put in a chip or they do some experiment and then they come and check like a plant growing, they check how it's developing or what's going on? Or
I mean, I think it's because they want to track you through time and see how the human body changes and whatnot, or at least that used to be the reason, I think. It may be a completely different reason now, but I have to think after all this time, they know how human bodies work to the T. So,
So it's like Fish and Wildlife tagging a bear or like a marine, tagging the whales.
I mean, but the funny thing too is they come as different things too to try to make it like the kids seem like not get scared over it. Like there's been reports of them coming as like that, like one person reported when they were a kid, they'd have this creature that looked like Duncan, like the monkey from the 90s movies, coming to the room, like wearing the overalls and everything. And another person reported when they were a kid, it was like a T-Rex in a lab suit.
So then why did they sometimes show up as a scary little gray thing, like to see different reactions? Or
it's like the monsters in Monsters Inc. Some of them try to do the job and be nicer, some of them try to do the job and be dicks. So
well, you guys have suggested when we get big enough and we do our first paranormal research thing in real life.
Yeah.
I think we should just go to this AA for fucking
right? Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be fun?
I think that should be the first episode of our TV show.
Oh god.
That'd be hilarious. So anyways, these girls, they say they've been up in the crafts, they've seen their house from above. They realize they're not from here. The aliens are really good at mind erasing or whatever you want to call it. So when you come back down, and that's common theme in all these stories. And they leave you with just little bits and pieces of things you can remember. And when they asked why would the aliens continue to abduct them together, they had no explanation, although they might be, tracking twins, because that might be an interesting thing to them. I don't know. And they say no matter what anybody else says, that they know it's real. Like that is, it is for sure. They've been up there multiple times. So anyways, and then, so it's Starborn. That's the name of the group if anybody needs to join.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Episode 1 coming soon.
Right.
What?
So anyways,
wait a minute. Does it say what New England town they meet in?
No, it didn't.
Oh, well, I mean,
I'll look it up.
Yeah, we can find it. We're coming to you guys.
Oh, don't warn them. Then they're gonna have our faces put up on posters.
So another member out there, he actually put his last name, so Terrell Copeland. He's a former U.S. Marine, traveled the farthest to attend one of these meetings. So anyways, he's from rural Virginia. And his experience with the paranormal began a couple of years ago with the UFO sighting that he said he was captured on his cell phone from his apartment. So in downtown Suffolk. So he said it was an orb of light. It was just like a big ball of light and wasn't moving, and just big solid things like hovering, I guess, And there was another orb, and it was changing across the street from it. It was about 300 feet above the ground and changing colors like really rapidly. So he was like watching this and he's thinking there's something screwed up here. I don't know if there's, I don't know what's going on. He drives forklifts at a warehouse for a living at that time. And after he witnessed in the sky, he posted on YouTube and he said a strange visitor came to his front door. And so he woke up from a nap by the sound of someone trying to enter his apartment. So he videoed this, put it on YouTube, thought it was kind of freaky or weird, you know how you do. share it to the media, share it to the world. So anyways, he wakes up to a nap by the sound of somebody trying to break into the apartment, and he's like, who is it? And there's no answer. And he could just still see the doorknob kind of moving and scratching at the door, which sounds really creepy. And so he keeps a firearm, which was on the table beside him, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go up and check. And he couldn't move. He was in complete paralysis. The only thing that he could actually move was his eyes. And then he heard a voice through the door. So it hasn't even opened the door yet. He's in complete paralysis. As soon as he thought about getting the gun, he went paralyzed. And the voice says, you don't need that weapon. We won't harm. And then soon after that, he started experiencing what he calls missing time. And during the span of 2 nights, he said he missed 4 hours in total, not from sleeping. He's just missing. So again, with the memory erasing. So that's a little more, that's kind of creepy, right? That story.
So do you think it is sleep paralysis or
No, I mean sleep paralysis when you think you see demons in your room.
I don't-
That's something completely different.
Some people get some pretty weird sleep paralysis.
Well, they do, but it's usually like you see it, like you see a hag or a demon or something, like you see a figure, and it usually feels like it's sitting on your chest and it's really heavy and stuff. I think with sleep paralysis, like I don't know.
Yeah, or it's just on the other side of the room, just stand there looking at you from what I've been
Yeah.
told.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's
generally
just-
you can kind of see it, right? And you feel the heaviness. This was just like as soon as he thought about getting a weapon, it's like they paralyzed him, so you couldn't harm them. I was like, that story's a little creepier. I thought that was kind of cool.
So that town where the AA is Wareham, Massachusetts.
I know where that is.
Is that close to you?
Going. Let's see.
You got to get in there, do some recon for us. Get some.
Jeremy's gonna
footage.
buy into whatever they're selling.
Yeah, right. I mean, I would love to interview them all. Don't get me wrong, but
100%. Yeah, it would be a
Oh,
pretty
okay.
interesting meeting.
oh, that's why I know where it is. It's down in the South Shore by where my wife's from. So it's
Okay.
about an hour, 40 minutes away.
That's not too bad.
That's a nice little
closer.
drive. Yeah, you can do it.
I used to make that drive every freaking weekend, twice to go see every other weekend to go see my wife before we were moved in together. So
That's closer than Skinwalker Ranch is to me. I'm going there this year.
I will
Drive
fly out.
through.
I've been trying to get Brandon Bugle, the guy who runs it, that's on the TV show. Like I've been trying to get him in my podcast forever, but he won't respond.
Well, if you're hearing this now, Brandon, here's your chance. So, anyways, my last one was kind of more well-known case, obviously, Fire in the Sky. So on November 5th, 1975, what is his name?
Travis
Travis
Walton.
Walton.
We
Travis
just talked
Walton.
about that.
Yeah. Well, I have Walton, but I wrote down Walton. But Travis Walton, he was part of a 7-man logging crew working in the Sitgreaves National Forest near Herbert. And anyways, as they were leaving that night, they all saw a bright light off to the right. When they got closer, they saw a great big saucer-shaped UFO hovering about 20 feet over. And Walton was the only one who got out of the truck to go investigate it, I guess. And he just said he was entranced and awestruck. It was really beautiful, and he thought it would just take off, and it didn't. And he didn't realize the danger he was in. So the driver of the truck, so Mike Rogers, who was the driver of the truck that night, and John Uley, it was the first time the three of them had all been together in 40 years. They were at this conference recounting this whole thing 40 years after the encounter. So anyways, Travis was knocked to the ground by a bright blue-green beam of light, and they drove away in blind panic. so Travis, which is, I should be laughing, but honestly, it'd be like the three of us if we do a live investigation and 2 of us run away and leave the third one behind. So anyway, so Roger stopped the truck about a quarter of a mile away, and after seeing the spaceship leave, they went back, but Walton was gone. So yeah, they ran away and aliens got him. And so when they asked Walton how he felt about that, how his friends took off, he's like, I didn't fault them, it was understandable because they showed common sense for them to, they would have been harmed as well. So that's probably not what he was really thinking, but what are you gonna say? And
I mean, the story behind Travis Walton is a long and detailed one, and it's just
I mean,
I
it's
mean,
really famous, right?
but so many people say that he came and he rebutted everything he said, and that he changed his mind like 5 times.
Well, he went on Rogan like 2 years ago and stated the same shit they were saying back in the 70s.
Yeah, but in the 80s and 90s, he got like a little shy of all the attention, I guess, and he like kind of backed out of the spotlight for a while, and like everybody thought he was lying about it because of that.
Like redacted it a bit and then came back and said, no, it is true or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of comes back whenever there's a new form of media to go out on.
Yeah, well, so he kind of
you don't buy into it?
I mean, I believe anything is possible when it comes to extraterrestrials. So, I mean, if he got some fire in the sky when he got something put up his butt, then that's on him. Like I mean, according to Dr. Hugh Ross, an astrophysicist who was on my show, he which his episode didn't come out yet, but he believes that people who are abducted by aliens are practicing occult practices, and that's why they're abducted. He believes they're demons, not aliens.
Well, what about the little kids though? Like, and often it is little kids that get abducted.
Hey, they like Harry Potter, don't they?
Well, I like Harry Potter.
Yeah, your next spot, you're going up.
I'm just saying, people who think like this think Harry Potter is a cult.
Yeah.
Oh, so you had some crazy religious nut on.
I mean, he wasn't he was an astrophysicist. I mean, I highly respect his opinion, but he's looked into thousands of UFOs cases over the last 30, 40 years, but 50 years even maybe. But I mean, I don't know. That was his opinion. He's entitled to it.
Well, so Walton at this conference did kind of address how he's gone back and forth because they asked him how long it took to get back to normal, and he said it's just an ongoing thing forever. And he went somewhere no one knew him and talked about the event, and people started really kind of he got kind of famous about it, and he didn't like all the media attention, so this is why he kind of backed off, and he was nicknamed the reluctant celebrity, and he never liked that attention. But then he started to feel like along with that comes a burden of responsibility to share the story, and because too many other people are afraid to speak, and so he wanted to start speaking again about it to help them be vindicated. So yeah, it was the rest of it is just really about he's been featured on many shows like Fact or Faked. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that show.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Never
and
watched
he's a good
it,
friend of Walton's, and he helped organize this event that they had. And anyways, he has people going out to the spot where he was actually abducted or whatever. And so one night Hansen went out there alone, and he said it was a really spooky area. And yeah, I don't know. The area in the event 40 years ago was burned in the Rodeo Chudesky fire in 2002. And the old logging road they had been on has been decommissioned by the Forest Service. And 2 of the 4 buses got bogged down in the mud, and everyone had to walk over, some snow, mud, rocks, and debris for almost half an hour to get to the site, and there's nothing to see. We're going or whatever. So people are like, I mean, the book is called Fire in the Sky, published in 1979, and a movie with the same name came out in 1995. But Walton says it isn't accurate, and many of the details is just mostly fiction.
Of course they are.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, they got to sell it to Hollywood, so Hollywood doesn't want to hear about some guy having memory loss.
Yeah, well, so I don't know. Yeah.
They already did enough movies about that.
Right? And it's kind of like I kind of like the Marine story better, really. Although this one is kind of, well, I guess it's not funny, but the fact that his friends took off on him or whatever, but he doesn't seem to remember as much details about the actual interactions with the aliens, which is weird that he then got all the movies and whatever, but
yeah.
Maybe I'd like to talk to that. Yeah, probably, yeah. So anyways, and then I brought that clip because I thought that story was pretty, I think that was kind of cool to hear from the mouth of the abductee.
Is Earth really the only planet with life, or is something else out there? Here's investigative reporter Shelby Myers with a story that just might make you rethink everything.
It's been a debate for decades. Are aliens out there, and have they ever made contact with us? After 45 years of keeping it a secret from his own family, a Gulf Coast man's declining health has given him a reason to write a book and leave his legacy. Calvin Parker is now ready to tell the story of the event that would change his life forever.
Do you ever get any feelings or flashbacks when you come out here?
Not trustworthy. Look at him.
No, it's changed.
He looks like a
It's hard to
grandpa.
feel anything when you come out here.
What do you think about the whole experience?
Oh, President Trump, this is from the good old days.
I think something happened down there. I'm not at all sure what happened.
Something happened to him, the way they were upset. You don't fake fear. You know, he was scared. He was scared out of his mind.
What?
Oh, brought to you by this commercial.
Oh my God, $140,000.
You gotta
I'm going
skip
to tell
ads
you
at
exactly.
There we go. Back to the story, brought to you by Fox News 10.
Yeah.
In 1973, Calvin Parker was 19, a hard worker who just wanted to build a home and raise a family. But those plans would be derailed during a fishing trip in Pascagoula.
A real bright beam appeared all over us, but it kind of blinded me for a second, and when I got my vision back, I seen three bulky looking creatures coming toward us.
Parker will tell you, because of this night, he spent the last 45 years in hiding, scared to face the curious and unrelenting public eye.
We'd get up and go to work in the morning, nobody would never know, and they won't make us out to be idiots.
But after suffering a stroke and having 2 open heart surgeries, in a rare interview, Parker is recounting to me the night that changed his life.
And we pulled up and I noticed there was posted signs there. And I said, Charlie, you know, maybe we don't need to go fishing here. He said, no, that's fine. And that's when I noticed some blue hazy lights reflecting coming across from my back, out across the water. So I stood up thinking that I was going to go to jail for trespassing.
Just
Oh,
north
that's
of
his
where
problem.
Ingalls Shipyard now sits,
Doesn't wanna fish the
Parker
good
and his
spots.
fishing buddy, 42-year-old Charles Hickson, would do anything but fish that night.
I seen three bulky looking creatures coming toward us, and they was probably 4.5, 5 foot tall. They built like football players, but I noticed they kind of moved mechanical wise, and they was floating off the ground. By the time we stood up and turned around, they was there on us all at one time. So 2 of them got a hold of Charlie, 1 of them got a hold of myself, and instantly I felt like that I just got relaxed.
Parker claims he and Hickson were levitated into the spacecraft.
There was an examination room, what I call it, and the old big ugly creature that brought me in, he took me and laid me on the examination table, and he just backed up out of the way. I couldn't move or anything. All I could do was look, and there was something about the size of a deck of cards that came out of the ceiling, and it hovered about a foot in front of my eyes.
Hoovered.
And then it went to the right side of my head, and it clicked, went behind my head, and it clicked.
Is Charlie still alive, or did he only come out with this story after Charlie was dead?
I don't know.
I'm assuming
he was-
Charlie's dead if he was 42 at the time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm wondering, because, like,
No one
why
took,
isn't,
but there's the
where's
cops.
Charlie?
The cops were there. The cops that took the statement, right? So they're still alive.
Yeah.
Went to the
Okay.
left side of my head and clicked, and then straight to the front, and then it shot back up in the ceiling. And that's when I noticed some kind of little ruffling noise, and this more feminine looking creature came out. She looked completely different than the what I call the robot.
She's
'cause
pretty.
he moved like a robot, just mechanical wise. She looked kind of feminine looking and had fingers, regular fingers and all, come over and pinched me on the side of the cheek. And then she took her finger and run down my throat and got behind that little thing that hangs down back there and tried to come up in my nasal cavity. And that was when it started hurting and I started choking and I got scared. And she just kind of telepathically told me, you know, don't be afraid, we're not gonna hurt you.
And with those words, Parker says the aliens dropped he and Hickson back off on the bank. Frozen in fear, Parker didn't want to let anyone know what happened. Hickson, however, said they had to tell somebody, so they called the Jackson County Sheriff's Office.
And I said, could I help you? He said, yeah, I've had something happen, but said, you gonna laugh if I tell you what it is. I said, look, fella, go ahead and tell me, I'm busy. What happened? He said, I got picked up by a UFO. I laughed. He said, I told you he was gonna laugh.
Still, former Jackson County Captain Glenn Ryder told the men to come into the station.
Jackson County deputies had two choices that night. They could choose to believe Parker and Hickson had really been taken from the banks of the Pascagoula River like they said, or they could figure out if they were lying. So deputies stuck a secret tape recorder inside an interrogation room back at the station, and it's what they heard on those tapes that made them believe the two were not lying.
And they were upset. I figured they'd say, well, look, we got these guys food, but it wasn't that. They were still, the boy especially was upset.
The men would take lie detector tests and pass. Ufologists and researchers flew in right away to interview and hypnotize the two, concluding they did experience something traumatic. The two were even sent to Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi to make sure they weren't radioactive.
It's a circus, media circus.
Within days, the story went global. After the two were checked out, former WALA TV reporter Rennie Brabner caught up with them.
Up at the emergency room door, there's a line of sheriff's cars out there. We went in with our cameras going, and at least for the first time saw the two guys.
Brabner says to this day, it's still something viewers never seem to forget.
There's a reasonable chance that they'll say, wait a minute, didn't you cover those guys getting on the UFO? What do you think? Most of the stories you do, they're gone tomorrow, the next day, or whenever. And it's always intrigued me a little bit that had some legs, some interest, particularly years and years and years later.
Like Captain Ryder, Brabner too believes something happened that night, but he isn't sure what.
I do not think they made it up in the sense that they created it out of whole cloth. I have been told that particularly Hickson was known to take a drink.
There we go.
The bottom of a bottle of John Barleycorn. I don't know.
Charles Hickson wrote a book on his encounter and spoke numerous times about it. He passed away in 2011. Parker says he's a religious man and believes there's an explanation
there you go, Scotty passed away.
What he did. Yeah. For now, he still ponders why it happened to him.
You can't really pin everything down. You don't really know. And that's the point I'm holding out. I don't know what happened. I know something happened.
Definitely something to think about.
I mean, I don't know. It sounds believable to me, but I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's not like he's trying to like write. It's not like he spent the last 40 years trying to write books about it, like Travis Walton.
Right. Yeah. He hasn't made a career.
or one of the guys I'm going to talk about. Like he spent a life trying to write like 30 books about alien abductions.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's highly possible, but
And weird details like the lady alien sticking her up past his up his throat and through his nostril. Like that's pretty wild.
that's not the first time I heard that either. I've heard about that before.
Really? Oh.
In other case. Well, what hole would you rather stick the fingers in? Your throat or other places? I would say throat.
I heard they probe you first and then they stick the finger down your throat. I think
They probe you when your mouth opens, like. Oh dear. Anyways, that's it for me, folks.
Scott, you or me?
You pick, buddy. I already told you guys Warham.
All right, well, I could do at least one of mine now. Let's go back to the first ever reported alien abduction case. which I had to do. And that's right. It's actually not far from my house either. We're going to talk about Betty and Barney Hill of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And they were the first widely publicized alien abduction account. It took place just over 60 years ago on September 19th, 1961.
Holy fuck, dude. Theirs was on September 19th, too?
Yes.
Is that a common date?
I told you that I did the first two I researched because it was the day after my birthday. Those were both on September 19th as well.
Well,
that's
Scott,
weird.
You must be a starseed.
Or everybody's copying Benny and Barney Hill.
Possible. But this story, whether you want to believe it or not, is actually how the perception of extraterrestrials in popular culture kind of went together for a long time. And they still base a lot of it on this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the professor emeritus at University of New Hampshire says that they were basically the Adam and Eve of alien abduction. And he's the one responsible for curating the school's extensive collection on the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. And basically, as the story goes, they were driving home from their honeymoon in Montreal, going to Canada. But as they drove through New Hampshire's White Mountains, they said they were followed by what felt like a spotlight. Eventually, they pulled over and said they spotted a ship floating above their car. And it doesn't say this, but just so everybody knows, they were an interracial couple in the 60s. So this is why a lot of people didn't believe them back then, too. But they were kind of enveloped by this light from the ship that they had seen, and then they kind of blacked out, says Ross, the professor emeritus. When they came to, they said they were in their car miles down the road and couldn't remember the last 2 hours. They got home and there were mysterious marks on their car, and the zipper on Betty's dress was torn and stained. The strap on Barney's binoculars was broken. For the most part, they kept quiet about the story, but after experiencing nightmares and anxiety, they turned to hypnosis to see where there were supposed suppressed memories of the event. Apparently there was. The hypnotist recorded the session in which Betty and Barney recalled boarding a saucer-like aircraft and were taken to separate rooms to be physically evaluated. The recordings were eerie, as we'll hear in a minute, as Betty was terrified by the creature's experience. Eventually, a Boston reporter picked up the couple's story and readers went crazy to learn more. They went public, basically, to try to own their story because they were thrust into the limelight without their permission. It's had a lasting impact, and the fascination remains with this story. And Ross says his fascination is just with the impact their story had. He's a skeptic himself, but there are a lot of believers out there. And if you want to play that video, Skip. Did he go bathroom?
I think so. We've lost him.
Yeah,
Scott. Perfect timing.
He's
been abducted.
I would believe it. All right. Well. I don't know. I don't want to go through any of these without him here because the rest of them he's going to enjoy. But I know him. But actually, let's talk about alien abduction insurance, I guess, and then he can listen to it when he watches the video again. The first company to offer UFO abduction insurance was through the St. Lawrence Agency in Altamonte Springs, Florida, because of course it was Florida. Geico Insurance, which does not sell alien insurance policies, and the Daily Telegraph report that one English company has sold over 30,000 policies. Oh, and apparently, because it's in the same page, there's also a death or disability caused by supernatural phenomena insurance, which includes ghosts and poltergeists.
And poltergeists, huh?
Yes. So yeah, Scott, if you missed it, of course the alien abduction insurance is based out of Florida, the first one that ever came out.
So does it only count if you die because of any of this, or does it cover your counseling sessions after you're brought back?
I don't know.
How much is it?
I can imagine.
I don't know.
How much are these fucking weirdos paying?
Apparently, as the one company in England, according to Geico and a paper, have over 30,000 policies out. for alien abduction insurance.
Jesus Christ.
Well, if I knew it was a thing, I mean, I could
All right,
make a
well,
claim.
Scott,
Make
you
up
can
some
play.
stories.
You can play the video. I literally went back to the Zoom page and I'm like, "Did Scott leave?"
What? Scott never leaves. Okay, let me get yours up and going. You were this one.
Scott got abducted and probed. That's what we
Yeah,
said.
I was back there getting probed. Okay, share. We got sound going. Here it goes.
While driving
Maybe
home
after
just
that.
south of New Hampshire's Franconia Notch, Betty and Barney will encounter a UFO. And in following weeks, they begin having nightmares about terrifying events that may have occurred during 2 hours of missing drive time.
This was a 5-hour drive, and yet it took 7 hours. So there were 2 hours of missing time. What happened in those 2 hours? That question, of course, gets to the heart of the alien abduction mystery.
In my experience working with these cases is that partly it's the subconscious mind blocking some of these memories and then bubbling up to the surface eventually. And partly it could be the alien beings are programming people not to remember.
Increasingly disturbed by fragmented memories of their encounter and recurring nightmares, Betty and Barney seek the help of a noted psychiatrist, Dr. Benjamin Simon.
Dr. Simon interviewed Betty and Barney separately and together, and then he began 6 months of separate hypnosis sessions.
Dr. Simon uses a then revolutionary technique known as hypnotic regression, a process by which Betty and Barney are put under a trance and then are encouraged to recall memories that are not available to the conscious mind.
When I have a person in hypnotic regression, they'll relive this experience. Men and women will go through what they went through back then, the trauma, the fear, they're crying.
In sessions lasting over 6 months, Dr. Simon uncovers shocking facts about the first ever modern account of an alien abduction. Audio recordings of hypnosis sessions, never before heard on national television, reveal the frightening moment when Betty and Barney are taken.
And then I pulled over to the side of the road.
This is the part that I want everybody to hear.
It looks like a big pancake. I drive, and Betty is still looking, and she says, Barney, it's still following us. What do they want? I believe this is a flying saucer. I can see it tilted toward me. All right, that's all. Let us wait and see.
Is that all they give us?
I couldn't find the full tapes.
She resisted. She described it to me as almost like getting in a fist fight with these entities, whatever they were.
She became terrified when they tried to take her, and she fought for her life.
Is there more video or
It was very
audio
frightening
tape?
because they
I'm
saw
not
these
sure.
beings approach the car,
Can't be
and
much
they
longer
took
left
them
of
out
it.
of the car and led them into the craft.
There's about 4 minutes.
To me, there isn't. Oh, there you go.
Keep my eyes closed. They took me and carried me, and my feet are not bumping on the rocks. I am going up a slight incline. I'm afraid to open my eyes.
According to their own words, once inside the craft, Betty and Barney are taken to separate sterile environments. They are placed on tables where extraterrestrials begin to examine them.
First, they wanted to remove her dress, but they didn't know how to operate a zipper. They tried to pull it apart.
Travel through
It tore
space.
the stitching, and it tore the thick zipper fabric.
Did you feel you were going to be operating on? No. I was laying on the table. I thought, if I keep real quiet, I won't be harmed.
They examined their hands, their feet, their joints, and they seemed to do a test of their nervous systems. They seemed to be counting his vertebrae as they would push on his spine with something. For Betty, she believed it was part of her neurological test. So they underwent the same type of examination, separately.
This creature is telling me something. What did he tell you? To keep my eyes closed. And don't open them. I've never seen his eyes before. My God, give me strength. All right. Pull it down. Run! Holding it up and down and run! God! It's my God! Give me strength! I gotta get away!
At the end of Betty's examination, the examiner produced a very large needle, and he plunged the needle into her navel, causing so much trauma, so much pain, that Dr. Simon had to end the session early.
Betty and Barney's sessions are incredibly disturbing, and yet their stories
That's
are
creepy.
remarkably similar.
Whatever happened to Betty and Barney Hill, they believe that it happened, and they are reporting it as accurately and truthfully as they know how.
After 6 months of hypnosis therapy, Betty and Barney believe they've uncovered the truth about their close encounter. In time, they accept what happened and move on with their lives.
Betty and Barney decided to tell the family, close friends, and they spoke to scientists and UFO investigators who were interested. They also spoke to the Air Force, and they made a Project Blue Book report.
The Hills encounter becomes the first widely publicized credible report of alien abduction in history. The alleged abduction of Betty and Barney Hill is an extraordinary case, made all the more credible because it involved more than one person, even though details were recalled.
Okay.
That's pretty. Wouldn't it be fascinating to do hypnosis therapy with people?
Have you guys ever been hypnotized? I was only hypnotized at the fucking fair, and it was all bullshit. So I mean, I don't know if that counts. But like 95% of the goddamn cast went along with it, you know?
Yeah.
They kicked me out because I wasn't like doing exactly what they said, type shit.
So they kicked you out because they couldn't hypnotize you?
Well, yeah, they invited like, I don't know, 12, 14, 15, 20 of us, whatever the amount was, and they were going to hypnotize us live on stage. And like, you know, they would tell you, look down, then they would do the hypnotizing shit, and then they'd say, sit up. And then they'd tell you to do dumb shit like, put your hand under your ass, or whatever the fuck, dance the Macarena. And so I didn't do any of the shit, and they kicked me out and said that I was one of the small percent that couldn't be hypnotized, and all the other assholes did all the ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a state fair, so maybe people just wanted to go along with it.
Have some fun. It's actually, I think it's 20% of people that can't be put under like that.
Huh. Yeah.
They
I
don't.
don't know.
And some people are really susceptible, and they literally will act
All these
within a few seconds.
These people had to be really susceptible because it was fucking ridiculous too.
Okay, Deborah, use me Scoffio less special, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
Less
No,
special?
it's you're in the
No,
20% instead
I'm
of
the
the
20%.
5%. Yeah. Yeah.
well,
That's funny.
and Scott, I didn't want to do this next one unless you were here, because this one you're gonna have a ball with, I think, literally. So the next one I'm doing is Stan Romanek. He said his first UFO encounter occurred in 2000, and he's had many experiences since that time. They include allegedly discovering mysterious wounds on his body, which floated under a black light, and claiming to have communication with aliens over a ghost box. He also claims aliens followed his car and visited his home, and that he experienced telepathic communication with them. In one account from 2003, he claims he woke up and found himself wearing a lady's flannel nightgown, and he suspected he had been abducted and returned to women's clothing. He says he eventually came to suspect that the clothing belonged to another supposed abductee, Betty Hill. When asked if the gown had been tested for Hill's DNA, he claimed it had not because the test was too expensive. Appearing on ABC Primetime in 2009, he made the unsubstantiated claims that he underwent hypnosis by R. Elio Sprinkle, a psychologist who specializes in alien abduction cases. He claims that under hypnosis, he wrote out the Drake equation, which is a formula, for those who don't know, used to estimate the number of communicative extraterrestrial civilizations in our galaxy, and then added times 100 to it. Joe Nickel from the Center for Inquiry suggested the equation was done through simple memorization. And I didn't copy this part down, or take notes on it, but he is currently on probation and just released from jail for child pornography.
Oh, okay. Meth might have had something to do with that too.
That he claims the government planted on his computer
To shut down his alien conspiracies.
Sounds like he was caught in a lady's nightgown and needed a story.
It sounds like our energy secretary that was stealing all the clothes from the fucking airport.
I mean, unless it's the Clintons covering up Pizzagate.
Jeez. Oh my. Could be anything.
But yeah, I knew Scott would have fun with that one. But the next one I'm going to do is a little more of a famous one. And it's actually the last one I got before I'm going to talk about some of the ones that have been on my show that talk about being abducted. But this one is, what the hell is his first name? Did I lose his first name? Apparently I did. Yes, his name is Whitley Strieber. And you may know him because he contends he was abducted from his cabin in upstate New York on the evening of December 26, 1985 by non-human beings.
That's even close though, too, right? Like, what's all these September abductions?
December.
Oh, December. Okay.
He wrote about his experience and related experiences in Communion in 1987.
So the day after Christmas.
Yes.
Okay.
Communion was his first nonfiction book. Although the book is perceived generally as an account of alien abduction, Strieber draws no conclusions about the identity of the alleged abductors. He refers to the beings as the visitors, a name chosen to be as neutral as possible to entertain the possibility they are not extraterrestrials. Neurologist Stephen Novella remarks to the details of Whitley's tale of waking up to seemingly paralyzed fits the description of hypnagogia, a fairly common neurological phenomenon that has been mistaken by some for an intervention by demons or aliens. So sleep paralysis, I think. But both the hardcover and paperback edition of Communion reached the #1 position on the New York Times bestseller list, nonfiction, with more than 2 million copies collectively sold. Although it was published as nonfiction, the book editor of Los Angeles Times pronounced the follow-up title, Transformation, in 1988, to be fiction, and removed it from the nonfiction bestseller list. It nonetheless made the top 10 on the fiction side of the chart. It's a reprehensible thing, Strieber responded. My book is a true story. Placing this book on the fiction list is an ugly example of exactly the kind of blind prejudice that has hurt human progress for many generations. Criticism noting that similarity between the non-human beings in Strieber's autobiographical accounts and the non-human beings in his initial horror novels was typically acknowledged by the author as a fair observation, but not indicative of his autobiographical works being fictional. The mysterious small beings that figure prominently in Cat Magic seem to be an unconscious rendering of the visitors, created before I was aware they may be real. And he's written 4 autobiographies since Communion, transformation, break through the next step, and solving the communion enigma, what is to come. And he wrote in the last book about how advances in scientific understanding since his A7 publication may shed light on what he perceived. He noted, among other things, since I wrote Communion, science has determined that parallel universes may be physically real, and that time travel may in some way be possible. The book is a consolidation of UFO sightings and related phenomena, including crop circles, alien abductions, mutilations, and deaths in an attempt to discern any kind of meaningful overall pattern. He concludes that the human species is being shepherded to a higher level of understanding and existence within an endless multiverse of matter, energy, space, and time. And he also wrote candidly about the deleterious effects his initial experiences had upon him while staying at his upstate New York cabin in the 80s, noting, I was regularly drinking myself to sleep when we were there. I would listen to the radio until late hours drinking vodka. So there you go, Scott. But other visitor-themed books of his include Majestic, which he wrote in '89 about the Roswell UFO incident, The Communion Letters in '97, a collection of letters from readers reporting experiences similar to his, and Confirmation in '98, in which he reviews a variety of evidence that's suggestive of alien contact and considers what more would be required to provide confirmation. And in 2006, he wrote The Greys, a novel in which his impressions of alien contact are presented through a fictional thriller, espionage narrative, and also in 2011, Hybrids, a fictional narrative that imagines human-alien hybrids being born in the modern world. And apparently there's been a screenplay written for Communion 2, and that, as we all know, Christopher Walken played him in the movie. And he apparently was very upset because in the movie they made 100% seem like it was alien contact, where he never said he actually knows that. So, and he blames, of course, the military for this. But so he was extensively tested as well for temporal lobe epilepsy and other brain anomalies at his own request, but his brain was found to be functioning normally. The results of these tests were reported in his book Transformation. So what do you think, Scott? You think Communion's real?
I think they're all full of shit, to be honest with you.
That guy's made a real lifetime living out of the whole thing, eh? Writing books and.
But
yeah, and
Scott,
just like the fucking guy who wrote the Scientology religion, it was his first non-fiction book, right?
Oh, L. Ron Hubbard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Scott, just because you haven't been probed yet. But
keywords yet, buddy.
Tonight might be the night. You know.
Would you be pissed off if an alien came down and probed me tonight instead of you, Jeremy?
Not in the slightest, I don't think. If they came down and communicated with you, then yes. But if they just probe you, I'm good.
Have you guys noticed there haven't been a lot of like fucking new alien abductions? Because you do with the alien, like, hey, what's up, dude? Yeah, TikTok, Facebook Live.
They do it. You just don't know they do it.
It's like from really crazy fucking people now, though. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
What is the biggest? Do you know of the biggest new fucking
one of the guests of my
abduction story?
One of the guests of my show, yeah.
Well, what happened?
Well, Russ Kellett, he lives in the UK. I forget, since he was a young teen, basically, he's been abducted by extraterrestrials, according to him. And he supposedly has been drafted by them to fight in an army for the aliens that abduct him against other humans and aliens that were abducted by other species. And he has drawn and painted pictures of what his brothers in arms look like. He's been on the UK news constantly about abductions and UFOs, especially he was just on some Discovery Plus show. He found out about, they're talking about him on it. Like, he's a pretty big deal right now.
Do you believe him?
His voice didn't seem like he was lying. He believes it. And if someone believes something like that to that degree he does, like, I have to kind of think there's some truth to it, and it wouldn't surprise me.
That's where we're different, dude. Because like
my
uncle,
put it this way, Scott.
He's not lying.
Put it this way: if we could go to other planets and abduct their people to fight wars for us, you don't think we would do it?
No, I think we just
like,
take
I always
over.
thought
I think we
aliens are
bomb
like-
the fuck out of it.
I think they're more peace loving than we are. I think we're the violent, whatever planet.
Why? That doesn't make sense, though, Deborah. Just like there's violent people, why wouldn't there be violent extraterrestrials?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't think they'd be trying
personalities
to do some,
change.
CIA coup with some guy who's like maybe Trump, right? Like Vladimir Putin. They abduct Vladimir Putin, throw him in the fucking alien ship, and they're like, "Hey, buddy, guess what? You got family? Yeah, we're watching them too. This is what's gonna happen. You do this, or you're gonna get probed astronomically." But like when they come up to like people who don't really have anything going on, like I don't see why you would want to. Like, was this a big Viking looking motherfucker, or what's going on with him?
Well, I mean, he's
highly extensive military
No.
experience. Why'd they want him over everyone else?
He doesn't know. He's just been having since he was a teenager, and he says I believe he said that they give him like pump up with medicine and stuff too to like make him stronger and whatnot. But he said that he fights alongside human-looking beings though who are double his height.
What he's fighting though, it's not like a physical fight, it's in another dimension fight, right?
It's in like a war in like another planet.
Yeah.
And I mean, he says it's been going on for years and years, and you could, I mean, Google Russ Kellett, Kellett, and you'll see him. I'm
not putting him down. I don't doubt that he doesn't believe this is going on. I've met over 5 people that thought they were Jesus, like literally thought they were Jesus, and other people that had, like the guy my wife hated. He used to tell me that he would travel through the fucking telephones, and he was Sean Penn and Jerry Garcia. But the dude spent his entire life in CYA prison. It's a youth prison. Dude was like, bad shit happened to that dude. So like his brain just was not there.
But a lot of these abductee people, they get tested, right? And they don't have brain.
I didn't hear any. I heard them do the hypnosis. I didn't hear anybody who had a psychological evaluation put with it.
Well,
like they actually believe it, right? The hypnosis, your brain's telling you this shit happened. Hypnosis would bring that out, I'm assuming. But like, are they sane? Is the bigger question.
I'm not sure, but I got one more, and it's a celebrity. And we're talking about David Liebhart, or as everybody else knows him, Dia Hart.
What? I don't know who this is. Can you like give me a little information what he's been on?
I will get into that.
Okay.
But he is a musician. He is a singer. He's a rapper. He's been on TV shows. He's been in movies. He's a comedian. So he's like a man of all trades. But he's been documenting experience about his abduction in his music, which he performs during his live shows, along with the accompaniment of puppets and projected video to create a unique visual and audio experience. He is best known for his appearances and music that he wrote for the Tim and Eric Awesome Show, Great Job, featuring comedic sketches and appearances by various celebrities. It aired on Adult Swim from 2007-2010, and they also did live stand-up tours around the country. And he says he's going to be performing from albums that he produced, such as Astronaut, which he talks about the UFO phenomenon and having a lot of bad experiences with dating women. And he says, I haven't had good luck with dating women in a long time. Then I've written songs about my UFO experiences I had been through, being abducted and having a lot of experiences with the phenomenon. He freely discusses being abducted and operated on by space aliens. He claims the occurrences began as a child in Illinois in 1968. A more recent extraterrestrial experience in California, where he now resides, was a friendlier one. So I mean, that's all I could find on it. Like I really couldn't find much on him.
At least he's
Like,
original.
But yeah, and also, so I also had another. I had a guest actually. I just released her episode on yesterday, and she and her friend were camping in Southwest Desert somewhere. I forget where, and her friend got taken by the aliens up to the ship, and she was left stuck laying or sitting where she was in the ground on top of this plateau there, this mesa they're on basically. And she telepathically communicated with one of the aliens though, and she still is to this day telepathically communicating to her once in a while. So that episode just released. Save anybody wants to listen to it.
Just saying, those are the ones I'd question. Just saying.
You question everything, Scott.
I do. I'm the skeptic of the show. There are a lot of weirdos out in the world, buddy. A lot of weirdos. You just got to stop and talk to them.
Or do they just have more experience than what you have?
Maybe. When they make you nervous, when they're talking about crazy shit, make up your mind. Go into a homeless encampment tomorrow. That's your guys' homework.
I'm good. I am so good on that.
All homeless encampment tomorrow and see the stories you come up with.
I am so good in that, Scott.
They're wild. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stick with the secret meetings with the Star Club or whatever.
I would like to go and see that. That might be fun.
Well,
So
Scott,
Mr. Skeptic, what do you got?
Oh shit, I can't minimize that. Hold up. Let me get my video ready. I got something to break the ice. This is just a cool thing I found for my TikTok videos that I will be doing this week.
Do you indeed think that there is life on other
So
planets?
this is 1967.
Do you think
in
there's life on other planets?
Australia.
Oh, I don't know.
Would you like to think about it for a second?
Oh, not really.
Tell me, do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
No, he seems definite. You seem definite about
Definitely.
it. How do you see this life and where?
Oh, I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes,
Where was this?
definitely. At Lane Cove,
When was this?
1953.
You don't think this is a figment of your imagination?
Several other people with me saw it.
You all had the same figment. What did it look like?
It was standing up there, still,
Just suspended in space?
with colours coming out of it.
Flat or on its side?
It was around.
And you think this was sent from another planet, do you?
I really do. Well, where else would it come from?
Do you think there's life on other planets?
Oh,
It's
well, I
interesting to see
wouldn't
what they say
like to
about
even
it.
discuss that.
Why not?
It's a debatable point, I suppose.
What do you
but-
think yourself? You must have an opinion here.
Well, definitely not.
Not?
Not.
Well, what leads you to say that? Scientific investigation or?
Well, only working off the theory of the Bible. Well, there's only one world, isn't there? And
But do you think that can stand up to present scientific investigation?
Oh, I
this
think it
biblical
could.
creed? Do you think so?
I
as
think
far
it
as the
could.
universe goes.
Mhm. Definitely so.
In your opinion, do you think there is life on other planets?
No, I hope not.
Why do you hope not?
Because they'll be frozen to death.
Do you think there is life on other planets?
No, I'm German. Yes, definitely.
Why? What sort of life do you see up there?
Vegetable.
Do I think there's
Jack,
life
have
on
you tried
other
tomatoes?
planets? No.
Why not?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't think we'll find anything when...
What happened?
I said Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
I love this guy, the way he interviews. I'm going to try it this week at the mall, where I just like put the microphone in front of random people's faces and just ask them a question. This dude's awesome.
And eventually we land
There's
on
more.
Venus.
I don't think we'll find life.
What do
We
you think
might
we'll
find
find?
very interesting things, though.
Such as?
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't really say what as. I don't know. But I dare say it'll be something worth knowing.
I think there is life on other planets.
And how do you see this life? How do you visualize it yourself? Is
It's
it
rather
like
like
this?
queer-looking people.
queer-looking people. They're totally different from the people on Earth?
I suppose so.
Uh-huh. Would you like to get up there yourself and see it on Venus?
Not particularly.
Why not?
Because I like it down here. I reckon there is.
What makes you reckon that?
Well, just, I don't know, it's not imagination, it's just what,
You're being led by scientific discoveries, etc.
yes.
Yeah, well, how do you see this life? If you think there is life up there, how do you see it? What form do you think it takes?
Animal. Because we're animals, aren't we?
Well, some of them.
Yes.
Speak for yourself. I mean, how do you see them up there, though?
Oh,
I mean, the same as here? You think you can land on Venus will discover people like you?
No.
Totally different.
It all depends what atmosphere they're living in. I think it'd be an animal form, but I don't think it'd be like us.
You think that's a good thing?
Well, I don't know.
Would you like to get up there and find out for yourself?
Definitely.
Would you?
Too right
You'd
I would.
volunteer for this?
Too right I would. I'd like to be the first woman in space.
Do you think there is life on other planets?
Oh, I don't know.
Have you thought about this at all?
The rest is all just people saying no. But what are
I
you?
love how they're dressed.
I love how horrible the video editing is. That like you can't even see their mouths moving along with what they're saying.
Dude, it was 1967.
I know, but still, I mean, they're making All in the Family then.
Yeah, this is a black and white on the street recording. He's like the first man on the street. He's got some really good interviews. If you watch, like, he asks about, do you think women are oppressed? What do you think about the women's movement? Like,
What's his name again?
let me take a. I don't think that we get his name. It's ABC News In Depth.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool just to see the man on the street back then.
And now we got Scott in the mall.
Yeah, and every other fucker with a phone. There's a lot of us. I copied. I got a new thing going though. I think it's gonna work. Okay, let's jump into these alien abductions. Mine are all pretty much a ripoff of Benny and Barney Hill. But I got them from 3 different countries. So, and I'm not gonna lie, I watched a Watch Mojo for the most famous fucking alien abductions, and I took from the bottom. So, Jeremy, have you ever heard of the A70 abduction?
I saw you post that in the group chat, and I don't think I have, but I could be wrong, just not know it by name.
So this one's kind of short. The A70 abduction happened in West Lothian, which is a region in Scotland, on August 17th, 1992. It involved Colin Wright and Gary Woods. They were driving home, just like Benny and Barney Hill, from a friend's house on the A70 road. That's why it's called that. And then they saw a bright light in the sky that started to follow them. The light landed in front of them, causing their car to just shut off. And that was a thing about Benny and Barney too, right? Their car just shut off.
It malfunctioned. They never said it shut off, but they said it malfunctioned, and the radio went haywire, and like the lights were going on and off.
Okay. So then they said that the craft had a dome-shaped top, and on the outer edge that surrounded it, it was all windows. And then they saw the craft. After they saw the craft, they woke up like an hour later and they had no memory of what happened. And a while after the incident, they went to a hypnotist and they had their memories, retold to them. And they claimed that the hypnotist, recorded them saying that they were examined by typical grays, so like 4 foot, small little creatures, big eyes, big head, small body. And they supposedly took their blood, bodily fluids, and their semen.
Yep, which, I mean, everything you said so far is just the common, script where people have been abducted.
Exactly, yeah. And this was 92. So by 92, this was like common script. This was just Scotland's version of the common script, like 40 years afterwards.
I mean, and Barney Hill didn't show it in the video, but Barney Hill did say they took his semen as well.
So maybe, maybe all these people, but I really do think Betty and Barney Hill, just created the scenario for all these people because they're all pretty much similar. But then the aliens, the Greys, used mind control to erase the men's memories. And yeah, they weren't probed, sadly. There was no probing. I tried to look for probing. Don't ask GPT chat about alien probing. They're strike.
And now Scott has the government looking at him.
The one thing that you mentioned, the one thing I did realize doing this week's research is YouTube has cut a lot of the actual interviews from these people. Like, I know you guys both, Jeremy's was from Discovery. What was yours from, Deborah?
It was you, wasn't it?
No, it was an actual TV. It was like a clip from a TV show, right? I don't know. I closed it out.
It was Fox News because I watched a few of them. But that was a Fox News clip, right?
It was a newer Fox News clip too. But like all three of the people, which are in the top 10 most famous fucking alien abductions, they all had actual interviews on fucking the news back when, and they were uploaded. Like, I know it for a fact because I saw it on random sites when I was researching these people, and YouTube had gotten rid of the video. So I don't know, like, we were doing that last topic or the topic before where they censored all these videos. I don't know why they're censoring.
They're starting to
Bigfoot.
really censor stuff. Yeah.
They censored Bigfoot. They censored aliens. Gee, wonder what the government doesn't want us to be looking into.
No, that's what makes me think, right? Like it was simulation theory that they censored hardcore as fuck. And then I looked into flat earth theory.
Oh.
Or no, it was the moon landing. And
moon landing they did, yeah.
Yeah. And then if you try to look up flat earth theory, good luck on YouTube.
Yeah, I know a podcast that got taken off the air because of that. So let's not do an episode on that ever.
Well, the thing that sucks is, I mean, I'll talk about it later, but Rumble doesn't have all the fucking backup videos that YouTube had for the past 20 years or however long they've been available. So a lot of that shit's just lost. Like, the people who owned the actual raw footage are probably not going to upload it to Rumble. So it's just gone off the internet.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Not really. It happens every day.
Sucks.
Well, it's just weird. I mean, yeah.
Is it though? Is it? I mean, you don't live in America, so maybe you're not used to it, but.
Oh, she's used to it.
Oh, I think it's weird. Yeah, I think things are getting more and more tightly censored here than there.
I'm surprised not every one of our videos is censored from Canada.
I know, right?
Who did they censored us from, like, New Zealand, Austria, and then like a couple of Muslim countries. It was like, why those four? That's weird.
Maybe that should be a goal. How many countries can we be banned?
We better start doing this shit in like Nepalese or something. We got to learn.
We'll be like the Borats of podcasting. How many people can we offend and get shut down?
Okay, so then my next story, another ripoff of Benny and Barney Hill. And this one happened in,
Betty Hill, not Benny Hill.
I said Benny and Barney. Oh, Betty, Betty, you got me.
Oh, yeah, I did.
So this one happened in Yorkshire, England, and it involved two sisters, Carol and Helen Thomas. And this is where it gets weird because they were abducted the same day that Benny and Barney Hill were, September 19th, 1988.
Oh, no, that was the other guy.
You said the other one was December. Benny and Barney were September.
It is weird. There's a lot on the same date. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, that was like something that I was like, why is that? Are they just ripping off Benny and Barney, or? I thought it was weird when I found my two, but when it was the same as the first abduction story, like that is weird.
I don't think they would steal a date. That just seems too obvious.
You would think.
You could just pick any other day out of the 365 days that are in the year. So yeah.
Yeah, you would think but it is like, a common thing that happens through these. But anyway, they were driving through the town of Little Harley, and I totally pronounced that wrong, I'm sure. And they saw the same craft that the A-70 people saw. So just like a dome-shaped thing with the windows going all the way around the craft. This one was apparently 20 feet wide. And as they approached the craft, it emitted a bright white light. And as they got closer, the car suddenly lost power, just like the last one. Then all of a sudden, they just showed up driving down the road a few miles away. So they lost time, just like Benny and Barney Hill. And for the next couple of weeks, the sisters reported having nightmares, bad headaches, nosebleeds, and they had circular bruises and puncture wounds all over their body. And then just as in the A-70 incident, the sisters went to a hypnotist, Benny and Barney Hill. During their hypnosis, they reported creatures that were also grays, and they also had fluids taken, but they took their eggs instead of the semen. They took their actual eggs.
Yeah, Betty Hill reported that too. So
some more reproductive shit, right?
It seems to be a theme with that.
This one, unlike A-70, they said the Greys communicated with them telepathically, even though they did that to Benny and Barney Hill. And they told them they meant no harm. They were just here to study the reproductive cycle of the human race. They also claimed there were other human-like creatures on the craft that were being studied as well. So not humans, like creatures.
There you go, Scott. There's your connection. They were studying reproductive cycles of humans so they can make the COVID vaccine and make humans infertile.
It was probably fucking Hillary up there, wasn't it? I bet.
Not Hill, dog.
He solved it.
Okay, so
maybe they're, how we talked about doppelgangers? Like maybe they just mess around and they, make the semen from some guy, and suddenly this kid shows up and is like, yeah, you're my dad, I did DNA, and the guy's like, his wife's pissed, and
might be.
They're messing around, throwing, who knows what they're doing.
Well,
so basically that was the same story with a little bit more detail as the story that happened 4 years prior in Scotland. They're in England in this one. What do you guys think? You think it's a ripoff, or do you think it's a...
No, I don't think it's a ripoff, because there's a lot of common similarities in all UFO abductions. There's never any one that's truly unique, except for the first one, so...
Wait till you hear my next one.
And honestly,
buddy.
I think these people aren't all nuts. I mean, there's definitely some kooks that come up with stories, but a lot of them seem pretty credible.
It's the same as people who see Bigfoot or or ghosts or anything. You can't say they're all making it up. Like they have, there's proof of all of it to some degree.
Well,
and I've seen documentaries where a guy who believes he's getting abducted, and he has implants in his skin, and they literally surgically remove it, and the doctors are like, I have no idea what this is. This is not something that any hospital would put in you.
Right.
I've never seen that.
Or they'll say it's not Earth, and not something found on Earth.
I mean, it makes sense. Like when we find a new animal that we've never seen before, they study it and whatever, and it makes sense that they would be interested in us.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean,
I think if there were aliens, they would study us for sure, 100%.
Like what show was that? There's a show where humans were exhibits in an alien zoo. I forget. Futurama. Yeah, I think it was Futurama.
That would suck. You get abducted and you just end up in the circus or something that would suck.
Yeah,
I just wonder why it's all backwards hillbillies in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Because they're in the middle. Because they're in the middle of fucking nowhere.
If you were an alien, wouldn't you abduct fucking? I mean, Biden's a horrible Putin or
no.
He's talking about somebody like the fighter guy. is very strong in other dimensions. Maybe Putin's not that strong.
He's got the whole KGB behind him, dude.
That's here on Earth, though. Like they're talking about fighting wars in other dimensions. Maybe it's got no pull there.
And we're talking wheeling and dealing over here, right? Like, do you want one guy or the whole KGB?
Well, so what's your last story, Scott?
Well, why don't you tell us what we're doing next week?
All right, that's easy. We're doing African cryptids.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Africa's a huge continent. Okay.
Yes, it is.
Last story is the Lees. Have you ever heard of Clayton and Donna Lee, Jeremy?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
This one, yeah.
You've heard of this one too, Deborah? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll get into like researching this later after I'm done. But the first abduction of Clayton and Donna Lee apparently happened 15 years prior to the exact day of the Thomas abduction, and like I learned tonight, the Benny and Barney Hill abduction. So September 19th. And these people made some claims. There is some conflicting shit going on with them. So I found multiple articles throughout the website. Like there was one with punk rock and UFO.com where they did an actual interview with these people, but like the stories are fucking all over the place on the internet with these people. So I kind of tried to narrow it down between Google searches and like fucking chat GTP to find an actual storyline. But so the first one happened, it was September 19th, 1973. The two were driving in their car when they were abducted and taken aboard a spaceship and had medical experiments performed on them. I couldn't find out where the fuck, like that was it, pretty much. 1973, didn't tell you where, it only told you when, and that they were abducted. There was no other shit I could find that was reliable. But then in 1975, I found multiple sites that sort of confirmed what they said. They said they were camping in Colorado when they saw a disc-shaped object with bright lights that landed next to where they were camping. The two approached the ship like you would do, right? You see an alien ship, why not approach it? And were immediately taken into the craft. Once inside, they said they saw 4-foot creatures with big heads and spindly bodies who communicated with them telepathically. So like a common gray. The creature said he was, or I guess this one was one creature. The creature said he was from the planet Neptune, not Neptune, but like Neptune. And the aliens started doing medical experiments on him again. They took their blood and skin, and they claimed that the technology was like nothing they had ever seen in the ship. They had holograms of shit going on in the ship. Finally, the aliens took them to their planet Neptune, and they described it as just like having really crazy landscapes. And they were taken back to their campsite a couple of hours after the abduction. And then they would eventually, a couple days after they were done their camping trip, go and tell some UFO investigators what had happened to them. Then in 1977, while driving home from their friend's house in Mississippi, a saucer started following them down the road. The craft landed nearby, so they went to investigate, again, like you would do. They claim they saw a 6-foot gray creature with large black eyes moving around inside the craft this time. And then suddenly they were surrounded by a bunch of these fucking creatures and taken on board. Then the aliens took more blood, more skin. They saw even crazier advanced equipment, including, but not limited to, a machine that would manipulate time and space, because I'm sure these two knew exactly what the fuck that would look like. Then the new aliens telepathically told them They were from the planet Zeta, like Hubbard's Zeta, XETA, and took them on a tour of the ship. After the encounter, they made their way back home, and a couple of days later contacted the UFO hunters again. So then in Arizona, these people are getting all around the fucking country at this point. In 1980, they saw an even bigger saucer that landed nearby in the desert, and this one just fucking like zapped them. They didn't go investigate. They were just zapped into the ship. And this time it was 4-foot grays again, but these ones, they had the big heads, the skinny bodies, and they were from the planet Zeta Reticuli, not Neptune. And then they just took more blood and skin. But these aliens were kind enough to engulf the passengers with a vision of Earth being inflicted with chaos and widespread destruction. Then, dun, dun, dun. Then they were dropped off at their camping spot. They finished camping and would eventually get to telling UFO investigators about their story. But the grand finale, this is the big one. In the morning hours of October 21st, 1983, I like this one because there's a specific date. They saw a huge football-shaped saucer following them on a rural road in Texas. And they got out to investigate again, and a red light tractor beam brought them onto the craft, where they were met by 3 robotic-looking, 4-foot-tall, gray-skinned creatures with slits for mouths, crab claws, and no discernible eyes, ears, or nose. The creatures went through the normal thing aliens do. They took some skin and body fluids. And this time, though, the actual instruments they used were humming. So they said this encounter lasted around 30 minutes until they were released. And then they immediately went to the sheriff this time. They didn't, finish their camping trip and fucking wait around. So, like I said, that's the timeline that sort of matched up with the most information that I could cross-reference to being the actual story. But I mean, there are all sorts of stories about these people. One story says so some of the stories say that fucking Clayton was abducted when he was a kid, before they got together and started getting abducted every time. And then there was another story where whatever the woman's name was, I don't fucking remember, but she was in an abortion clinic and aliens came and stole her kid. And then there's stories about her seeing her kid on a spacecraft that went through different ages, and
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, their story is just all over the fucking place. So they actually had an interview. So that punkrockandufos.com, that was the first place I found one of these interviews, where it used to be on YouTube, but it's not. It was on the O'Reilly Factor, Fox's The O'Reilly Factor, and they've removed it from YouTube. So without seeing the actual interviews of these people, I have no idea what they actually claimed happened to them. So this could just be people taking their stories and running with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I probably just did it right now, right? I probably made them seem like their story was fucking nuts, but that was the best story I could get to go together. I have no idea what they actually said, because we can't, unless somebody's got a VHS recording, send it on over. The one thing we do know is this couple was together for a long ass time, and they traveled a lot of the country. Seemed like they had a lot of fun, but they're both dead now. So
why would the aliens with these, it seemed like they were coming from different planets, and they were giving information like that? That's not common. for the aliens to say where they're from and stuff, right? Is that normal?
Not from what I've seen.
Right? Like usually they wipe your memory and you have hardly any memory, let alone, them giving their home address. Like that's weird, right?
Yeah, no, and they took them to one of the planets. They fucking I think 3 of the stories they actually took them on a tour of the spacecraft. The first story there's no information about, so I don't know what happened to them on their first abduction. So I think either this one's total bullshit, or people took their story and fucking ran with it and made them seem to be crazies.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's usually what happens, but well, I don't think about wraps up tonight, Scott. Since we already know what we're doing next week.
One last thing. What's your favorite alien movie?
Oh God,
Alien.
The
original.
Tough. That's a tough one. Scary Movie 3 or Space Jam.
Mine's Dark Skies. I don't even like alien shows, but that show is freaky.
Oh, that show was amazing. Dark Skies was an incredible show.
It actually freaked me out. I was like, oh, okay, this is creepy.
But best alien movie. I don't even freaking. I mean, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But
that's a good one. I didn't see Dark Sky. I'll have to watch.
Oh,
I mean,
you gotta watch that. That's an awesome show.
Actually, no. Okay, my favorite alien movie: Avengers Endgame.
The guy who doesn't like horror movies.
No, I mean, Space Jam is classic. The original. Fuck LeBron.
Is that count as an alien movie though, or a?
Yes, because it's about Looney Tunes fighting aliens.
There you have it.
I'm trying to think if there's another one I like better, but I mean, Martian Manhunter is Martian. But I'd always been one of my favorites too. So, gotta go classics. I'm trying to think. I know there's a movie. Well, actually, okay, that's the alien movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. There's a big disappointment at the end of the movie, but
oh, I mean, it's still an alien, but I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of alien movies out there. Well, Star Wars. Pick a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, there you go. Dune, Star Trek. I guess those are all technically alien movies, huh?
They are. In a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago. But what about you, Deborah?
Dark Skies, 100%. That's my favorite.
Well, you said movie. You didn't say TV shows. If it's TV shows, we're talking X-Files here, baby.
No, the movie. There's a movie called Dark Sky.
Oh, yeah, there is, but it's not related to the TV show at all.
No, but the movie is good. It freaked me out. I don't really like alien movies very much, and that one freaked me out. Really good.
I mean,
when
just don't
was that
watch.
Made?
2018, I think, something like that.
Oh, so it's a newer one?
13, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. You gotta watch it. It's scary.
Do you know where it's streaming on?
Not this second, no. Just Google it and type watch it. And I mean, just Google it and hit the watch movie button and it tells you where it's streaming.
Not that long ago. I thought maybe I could just go to whichever one we had.
But no, just don't watch Nope. That's the worst alien movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, I watched Nope. It was
horrible. Worst alien design ever.
It killed 2 hours.
So does doing a lot of things that are a lot more fun than that.
You need that whole mind removal, memory removal.
So is next week, I call Macaulay and Bembe. Called it.
Go ahead. We already talked about them before, so it's not like there's any new information.
Which ones do you have in mind?
None at the moment, but we'll see.
I know you're all up in those African cryptids, dude. Like what?
Like the aliens are up in you, Scott, but yeah.
They will be before you, buddy. I'm gonna
go- I'm
brag. I'm
I'm okay with-
next week.
I've had prostate exam. I'm good with that.
And cut.
Have a good week, everybody. Next
Awesome.
week.
Have a good one.
Keep your asshole. Keep your asshole tight. Keep your asshole tight.
Have you last before we go? Have you noticed that like most of none of them fight back with the UFOs
Because they can't.
Besides the guy fucking Walton.
Well,
or
it sounds
whatever.
like Betty did though. Like in her when regressional hypnosis or whatever. It sounded like she was putting up a fight.
No, it sounded like she was getting stabbed in the stomach with a fucking needle. Your guy, Travis Walton, that was the only guy that actually like fought back, right?
Well, I mean, the Hopkinsville Goblin incident, that was kind of an alien invasion, and they fought back.
But I think they can, paralyze you or, kind of immobilize you quite a bit. So.
But yeah, we can go into that in the next alien show we do. We'll be doing another one eventually.
He had a cloth and some chloroform. So.
Date rape drugs. Okay, have a good week, everybody.
See ya.